Hi friends, I hope you are all doing good. This will be the last video on our amendments. So after this, this will be the last video. So after this, I'll be uploading the Sanjeevani Booty. I'll combine all the videos and upload a single Sanjeevani Booty video this time. Okay. So let us. These are all the other topics which are there. Chota mota amendments are there, not an huge amendment, but yes, in registration chapter there are few amendments which are important and which are very good amendments also, but this attempt most important will be your ITC chapter, and the second most important will be registration. And for final students, please also see that RCM changes which have been made under RCM topic. Very important is this input tax credit and the registration topic. Okay, so let us straight away start our discussion with the topic on registration, the amendment which is made in the registration topic. Okay, first amendment which is made in registration is in section 22 subsection 1. Section 22 subsection 1, section 22 as a whole talks about person who is liable for a registration under GST. Section 22 subsection 1 says if you are a person whose aggregate turnover in the financial year, if you are a person who is making taxable supplies and your aggregate turnover in the financial year exceeds rupees 20 lakhs, then you are a person who is required to take registration under GST. Then you should take a registration under GST. Similarly, there is a proviso. First proviso says the limit is 10 lakhs in case of special category states. The limit is equal to 10 lakhs in case of special category states. Now, there was one more proviso before which was telling that the government has all the liberty, the department or the government has all the liberty, it can increase the limit on the request of special category states and on the recommendation of the GST Council. They have the power to increase the limit for the special category states from 10 lakhs to such any higher amount not exceeding 20 lakhs. Now what they have done is, if you remember, we used to study about a notification number 10/2019. This notification number 10/2019, this notification speaks about what, sir? This notification makes the registration limit up to 40 lakhs. For few people, it makes the registration limit up to 40 lakhs. What was this notification telling? This notification was telling that if you are a person who is exclusively supplying goods, for you the limit for registration will be 40 lakhs. For you the registration limit is increased to 40 lakhs, provided that you satisfied few conditions. There were conditions also specified in notification 10/2019. Now this notification was given, but there was no corresponding entry in our section. No entry was there in section. So to accommodate this notification, they added a proviso. One more proviso was added. In section 22 subsection 1. This proviso says, provided also that the government may, at the request of the state and on the recommendation of the council, enhance the limit of aggregate turnover from 20 lakhs to such amount not exceeding 40 lakhs in case of supplier who is engaged in exclusive supply of goods. In case of whom, sir? In case of supplier who are engaged in exclusive supply of goods, subject to such conditions and limitations as may be specified in that notification. Subject to such conditions and limitation as may be specified in that notification. Which is that notification, sir? That notification is notification number 10/2019. Notification number 10/2019. What does this notification say? It says any person who is engaged in exclusive supply of goods. If you are a person who is engaged in exclusive supply of goods, you are engaged in the business of supplying goods only, and whose aggregate turnover in the financial year did not exceed 40 lakh rupees, and your aggregate turnover in the financial year did not exceed 40 lakh rupees, then you can opt for this. Then you are exempt from taking registration, provided that except in following cases, meaning except these conditions are there, except these people's, any other persons who is involved in the business of supply of goods only and whose turnover is not exceeding 20 lakh rupees can take registration, or he is exempt from taking registration up to rupees 40 lakh. He is exempt from taking registration up to rupees 40 lakhs. For this purpose, these four However, for this notification, these 4 people are not included. While seeing this notification will not be applicable to a person who is required to take compulsory registration under section 24. So if you are falling under section 24, if you are a person who is liable to take registration under GST compulsorily, then for you this provision is not applicable. If you are a person who is supplying notified goods, what are these notified goods, sir? Ice cream, pan masala, tobacco and tobacco products, including aerated waters. If you are supplying these notified goods, then also you cannot opt for this notification 10/2019. And if you are a person who is making supplies, who is making what, sir? Interstate supplies, who is doing business from these states. Which states? Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Puducherry, Sikkim, Telangana, Tripura and Uttarakhand. If you remember, these states are 8 plus 2 states are there. Totally 10 states are there. The 8 states are same as our composition scheme. In composition scheme, we had seen that for 8 states, the limit of composition is, for 8 special category states, the limit of composition scheme is 75 lakhs. Which were those 8 special category states? Sir, num must, sir, num must hai. So that num must plus 2 more states, which is TP. So if you are a person who is doing business, who is selling goods in num must TP. Num must TP means what, sir? Nagaland, Uttarakhand, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Tripura. And what is TP, sir? Num must time pass is Telangana and Puducherry. If you are doing business in these particular states, then you cannot opt for this 40 lakhs turnover. And you are a person who is exercising the option of section 25 subsection 3, meaning you are taking voluntary registration. If you are taking voluntary registration, who am I to stop you? If you want to take registration when your turnover is 0, you can take registration. If you want to take your registration when your turnover is 1 lakh, you can take registration. So if you are taking voluntary registration, then also this notification will not be applicable to you. So to incorporate this change in the section, they have inserted a new proviso. That is it. They have inserted a new proviso, and also they have given an explanation. What is this explanation telling? When you are computing this, when you are seeing whether that person is exclusively supplying goods, if that person is also getting some income through services, if that person is also getting such some income through supply of services, which kind of services? Services by way of giving any amount as advances or loan for which he is earning interest or discount. So any amount of income which is derived by you by way of interest or discount will not be added or should not be considered. If you are supplying those services also, I have given a loan to someone for which I am receiving interest. I have deposited my money in bank for which I am getting interest. Now this interest income is through supply of services. This interest income which I am getting is through supply of services. This amount should not be taken into consideration. Meaning what, sir? When you are seeing whether a person is exclusively supplying goods or not, if that person is also getting some interest income, please don't consider. Don't think that that person is also supplying services. Even this interest income should be treated as if he is supplying goods only. What is this telling? For the purpose of this subsection, a person shall be considered to be engaged in exclusively supply of goods even if he is engaged in exempt supply of services provided by way of extending deposit, loans or advances, insofar as the consideration is represented by way of interest or discount. So if you are supplying services, which services? Services of extending deposit, loans, etc., for which you are earning any interest, even in such cases, you will be called as a person who is exclusively supplying goods. So this is just the notification which was already there, notification number 10/2019. To incorporate the changes in the section, they have added one proviso and also an explanation is given. There are few other amendments of which the summary has been given. First amendment is bank account details. Normally what used to happen was, as we all know, GST REG 01 is the registration application. It has two parts, part A and part B. part A you give the basic details, part B you give the details of owners, name of the business, place of business, type of business, etc. In part B there was also a compulsory option of giving a compulsory tab to give your bank account details. If you are taking registration, you should give your bank account details. Now that clause has been removed. Now they are telling what? At the time of applying for registration, you need not give the bank account details. You need not give the bank account details. Sir, that means you should never give the bank account details. No. At the time of applying for registration, don't give any bank account details. You will have to give bank account details. Once the registration is given to you. Once you get the registration REG 06. Once the registration certificate has been issued to you, only after that you give the bank account details. Sir, when should I give? Within 45 days. Within 45 days. We'll see what is that provision telling. What is this change which has been made, sir? Bank account details may be furnished after obtaining registration certificate. New rule 10A has been inserted in rule number 21 of CGST rules. And this is what is told by that rule. A registered person has an option to give. He has an option to give his bank account details after obtaining registration. Sir, I already have a bank account, sir. See, I already have a bank account, sir. Can I give this bank account details at the time of registration only? Definitely. But if I don't have, then after registration. After obtaining the registration, within 45 days from the date of grant of registration. When should I give it? I should give it within 45 days from the date the registration has been granted to me, or within 45 days from the date of due date to furnish return. Due date of furnishing return. Say 20th, say you are obtained the registration in the month of October. You are required to file the return by 20th of November. So within 45 days of 20th of November, or within 45 days from the date of grant of registration, whichever is earlier. So if the registration is given to me today, within 45 days from today I should give the furnish the bank details. Okay. And further they have told this provision of giving bank details at a later period of time is not applicable to a person who has taken registration as a TDS deductor or TCS deductor, or a person who has been granted suo motu registration by the officer himself. If the officer himself is giving you the registration, for you also this provision is not applicable. And if you are a person who is taking registration as a TDS deductor or a TCS collector, then for you also this provision is not applicable. For these three types of people, TDS, TCS and suo motu registration, they should give this relaxation is not applicable to them. Okay, they should give the registration details at the time of application only. Then second amendment, manner of furnishing the details in a state or union territory in the application for registration for a TDS deductor in the state or union territory where he does not have any physical presence ... Something they are telling. Now we all know that government is a person. As per section 51, if you provide any goods or if you provide any services to a government entity or to government or government notified few other persons which are notified by them, if you provide services to government, then, or if you provide supply goods to the government, the value of which is exceeding 2.5 lakhs. If the value of those goods and services exceeds 2.5 lakhs, then at the time when they make payment to you, they are required to deduct taxes and give the balance amount to you. Now the question which came to their mind is, sir, HAL is a notified person, sir. One of the notified person is the person in which the control is by government. 51% or more shares or voting rights are from government. Sir, HAL, Hindustan Aeronautic Limited, is government, sir. It is notified under section 51, sir. So if I give any if I supply any goods to HAL and the value of that goods is exceeding 2.5 lakh rupees, HAL will have to deduct taxes. Yes, sir. Now HAL has its registered office in Bangalore. It is registered under GST and its registered office is where? It is in Bangalore. Now HAL is taking a services in the state of Maharashtra. It is taking services in the state of Maharashtra. Please note, In the state of Maharashtra, HAL does not have any of his office. They does not have any physical presence. Physical presence is in Bangalore only. Physical presence is in Bangalore only. But they are taking services in the state of Maharashtra, and payment is also made from there only. Now, payment is also made from there only. Now, because they are making the payment from them, because the services are provided over there, TDS is also required to be deducted by them from that location. TDS is also required to be deducted from them at that location. How will they deduct TDS? They can deduct TDS only after taking registration. Only after taking registration they can deduct TDS. Now, they are applying for registration, but they do not have any office at all. They do not have any physical presence at that location. Then how will I take registration, sir? If I don't have an office, if I don't have a physical presence in this area, how will I take registration? So what the law has told is, see Mr. Dilip, see Mr. HAL, see Mr. HAL, where do you have your physical presence? Sir, I have physical presence in Karnataka. Where are you taking services or goods? I am taking goods or services in the state of Maharashtra. So where is the TDS required to be deducted? Sir, TDS is required to be deducted in the state of Maharashtra. So what you should do, Dilip, take a registration in the state of Maharashtra. Okay, I will take a registration. How should I take? But in registration, we all know there are, in application for registration, there are two parts, part A and part B. In part A, write the place where you are taking this registration. Where am I taking registration? I am taking registration in the state of Maharashtra. So write that place. Whereas in part B, write the place where you have your physical presence. Where do you have your physical presence? Karnataka. So I will give you a registration. Government is telling, I will give you a registration. How will I give a registration to you? I will give a registration wherein at the time of filling part A of your registration, give the state where you want to deduct the taxes, where you do not have physical presence, and at the time of filling part B, give the state you have where you have your physical presence, that is state of Karnataka. Okay, I'll read this. Where a person is applying for registration to deduct taxes in the state or union territory where he does not have any physical presence, he shall mention the name of the said state in part A. The place where he does not have any physical presence, that location, that place details, that state details shall be given in part A of the prescribed application for registration, and further the name of the state in which he has his physical presence located, physical presence of business is to be located in part B. So wherever he has his wherever he has his principal place of business, or wherever he has his physical presence, that area should be mentioned in part B of his registration applicable. So what will happen because of this? The states mentioned in part A and part B will be different. The states may be different because of this reason. Then now, suspension of registration. Now, there was some amendment made last year with regard to cancellation of registration. What was that amendment talking about? The date from which you have applied for cancellation, till the date of actual cancellation order. The date from which you have applied for cancellation till the date of order for cancellation is given by the officer. During that period, your registration will be suspended. Your registration is deemed to have been suspended. And it also told that for this suspended period, you are not allowed to make any taxable supplies. For the suspended period, you are not allowed to make any taxable supply. Okay, sir. Sir, registration can be cancelled even by the officer. No, sir. Yes. If you have not filed the return for 3 consecutive quarters, or for 3 consecutive months, 6 consecutive months, etc., the officer has the power to cancel your registration. Correct, sir. So, officer has given you a notice for cancellation. Okay. Then officer has cancelled the registration. Now, from the date of cancellation till the date of actual cancellation is happening, or till the date the cancellation order is given, my registration will be treated as what? Suspended. Now the law is telling during this suspended period you are not allowed to make any taxable supplies. During the suspended period, what sir? You are not allowed to make any taxable supplies. Correct sir. Now what is that meaning of not making taxable supplies is given. What is the meaning of not making taxable supplies has been given. What is that? We'll see. Meaning of not making taxable supplies during the suspension of registration has been clarified. They have clarified what does it mean. Registered person required to okay, this is the same continuing second point. Registered person is required to issue a revised tax invoice and file first return during the period of suspension. Rule number 21 rule number 21 capital A. What is the rule number 21 capital A telling? Once a registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, or the proper officer seeks to cancel his registration shall remain suspended during the pendency of proceedings of cancellation. During this pendency of proceeding of cancellation, from the date when you have applied till the date of final order for cancellation, your registration will be treated as what? Suspended. Such person shall not make any taxable supply during the period of suspension and shall not file any return. He should not make any taxable supply also, and is not required to file any return also. He is not required to file any return also. An explanation has been inserted. An explanation has been inserted in this particular rule, clarifying that the expression shall not make any taxable supply shall mean that the registered person shall not issue any tax invoice and shall not charge any taxes on his supplies during this period. What do you mean by that? He shall not make taxable supplies, sir. This means that during this period of suspension you cannot give any tax invoice, you cannot issue tax invoice, and you cannot collect taxes on your supplies. You cannot issue tax invoice and you cannot collect taxes on your supplies. You cannot collect taxes on your supplies. Further, a new sub rule 5 has been inserted in the said rule to provide that where any order having the effect of revocation of suspension of cancellation has been passed, the provision of section 31 subsection 3 clause A will apply. Sir, what is this? Officer has cancelled your registration. Officer has cancelled your registration. I am applying for revocation. Hey officer, please don't cancel my registration. Because of some reason he could not file the returns. Because of some reason, reasons which were not in my control, you have cancelled the registration. So please revoke my cancellation. I have applied for revocation, and within 30 days my cancellation, my registration is also revoked. The officer has revoked the registration. The officer has revoked the cancellation. Revoked the cancellation. So now, because the cancellation has been revoked, because the cancellation order is treated as null now, it is no more valid. During that period of suspension, what should I do? I have made sales during that period of suspension. Now what should I do for that, sir? For that period, issue a revised tax invoice. Issue a revised tax invoice for all the supplies made from the date when it was cancelled till the till what? Pendency of your cancellation, till the pendency of your cancellation order. During that period, whatever supply you have made, issue a revised tax invoice and file first return. File a return called as first return for whatever supply is made during that period. Then next, one more point has been added. For whoever is taking registration, they have added under section 25, they have added section 25 6A, 6B, 6C and 6D. New sections have been added. This is important. This is also again one thing which is important, which may be important for your examination. Aadhaar authentication is mandatory for those who are applying for registration. Any person who is applying for a new registration under GST after 1st April 2020, if you are applying for a registration under GST, then Aadhaar authentication the verification of your Aadhaar is also mandatory. Whatever mobile number you give in your Aadhaar, automatically an OTP will be, once you enter your Aadhaar number, automatically an OTP will be sent to your mobile number. You will have to enter that OTP. So this Aadhaar authentication is also mandatory for all the registration which you are taking after 1st April 2020. For whom is it necessary? What if I have not updated a mobile number in Aadhaar? What if I don't have an Aadhaar card only? What will happen in that cases? We'll see. So very beautiful point, very important also. With effect from 1st April 2020, Aadhaar authentication has been made mandatory for the new applicants. For all the new applicants, the Aadhaar authentication has been made mandatory, whether he is an individual applicant or other than individual applicant. I don't care whether you are an individual or a sole proprietorship concern. I don't care whether you are a partnership firm. I don't care whether you are a company, public limited, LLP, etc. I don't care what type of registration you are taking. You will have to do Aadhaar authentication. You will have to do Aadhaar authentication. Aadhaar authentication is mandatory in order to be eligible for grant of registration. In order to be eligible for grant of registration. Sir, what about the new, what about the people who are already registered before 1st of April 2020? You will have to authenticate Aadhaar again. Existing registrants will also be required to undergo Aadhaar authentication, otherwise their registration shall deem to have been invalid. Unless until the existing registrants do Aadhaar verification, their registration will be treated as invalid. Sub rule 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D has been inserted in section 25 of CGST Act 2017, Wide Finance Act 2019, to make Aadhaar authentication mandatory for specified class of new taxpayer and to prescribe the manner in which such Aadhaar authentication is required to be made. So they have added these different section. Section 25 subsection 6. Section 25 subsection 6A says every registered person shall undergo Aadhaar authentication in such manner and in such form within such time as may be prescribed. As may be prescribed. Have they prescribed? Not prescribed. Section 25 subsection 6B, in case of new registration, they have prescribed every individual shall undergo Aadhaar authentication. Then section 25 subsection 6, authorized signatory of all the different types. If you are an authorized signatory of a company, LLP, firm, sole proprietorship concern, whatever you are, authorized signatory of all the types, and managing and authorized partners. If you are a partner of partnership firm, whether you are an authorized partner or a managing partner, you, the karta of an HUF, shall undergo Aadhaar authentication. For these people it is compulsory. For an individual it is compulsory. For all the different types of authorized signatory it is compulsory. Managing partner and authorized partner and karta of HUF. For these people Aadhaar authentication is compulsory. Then Aadhaar authentication is not required in case of a person. If you are a person who is not a citizen of India, if you are not a citizen of India, why will you take Aadhaar, Indian Aadhaar? Why will you take Indian Aadhaar? For example, there are foreign companies who will have foreign directors. There are companies who will have foreign directors. In that person, the foreign director would have never resided in India. So why will he need Aadhaar of India? Why will he need Aadhaar of India? So if you are not a citizen of India, you don't have to give that. Aadhaar authentication is not required. Secondly, Aadhaar authentication is not required for such class of people other than the following person. So if you are not covered in below, then for you also Aadhaar authentication is not required. Who, sir? If you are an individual, Aadhaar is required. Authorized signatory, managing partner, authorized partner or karta, for you, yes, it is required. For all others, other than these people, individual, HUF, karta, managing director, authorized signatory, for all the other people Aadhaar authentication is not required. For all the other people Aadhaar authentication is not required. Now Mukesh Ambani is the director, managing director of Reliance Industry. Mukesh Ambani is the managing director of Reliance Industry. Does he require to do Aadhaar authentication, sir? Now he will not have to do Aadhaar authentication if he is not acting as an authorized signatory of Reliance Industry. He may authorize, say some person, say he is authorizing me to be the authorized representative or authorized signatory for GST matters of Reliance Industry. So in that case, Aadhaar verification of Mukesh Ambani is not required. Now what will happen If Aadhaar number is not assigned to a person, what will happen? To such person, the registration will be granted, sir. Yes, the registration will be granted, but after some verification. To such, then the registration shall be granted only after physical verification. Very important. If you are a person who does not have any Aadhaar or whose Aadhaar authentication is not happening, then for you, registration will be granted only after physical verification of the principal place of business in the presence of said person. Meaning, whatever place you have told that this is the place from where I am doing the business. If you are told that this is the place from where I am doing the business, the officer will himself come. He will send one of his representative. That person will come to physically verify that location, and you should also be present at that place. At the time when he is coming, you should also be present at that place, and this will happen when not later than 60 days from the date of application. Within 60 days from the date you have made your application, he will come for physical verification. The site survey, that is physical verification, will be done, and identification of document also will be verified. Whatever documents you have submitted will also be verified. In such cases, deemed approval. See, when you are not doing Aadhaar authentication, for you, deemed approval of registration will also be not applicable. Deemed approval of registration will also be not applicable. See, normally what happens, if the registration, if you have applied for registration, if within 3 days they are not replying, it is deemed as the registration is deemed to have been granted. Further, they have sent a notice to you, and you have replied for that notice also. Then officer is required to reply to you within 7 days. Within 7 days, if within 7 days also is not replying, then the registration is deemed to have been granted to you. That is the normal provision. But if you have not done Aadhaar authentication, for you this deemed registration provision will not be applicable. If you are a person whose physical verification is done, if you are a person whose principal place of business physical verification is done, for you the deemed registration provision is not applicable. Okay, these are the amendments which is made in the topic called as registration. Then next topic is tax invoice, credit note, debit note. Now, all chota amendments have been made in this particular topic. Now, we all know that if the value of supply is less than 200, the supply is made to an unregistered person. If the value of supply is less than 200 and the supply is made to an unregistered person, and the unregistered person does not require any invoice, in such cases what, sir? In such cases, tax invoice, individual tax invoice is not required to be given, but an consolidated invoice is required to be given. Individually, tax invoice is not required to be given by you. That is what the provision is telling. Now, sir, there are the cinema halls, sir. There are the cinema halls who are giving cinema tickets. Most of the cases, their the ticket price will be less than 200 only. Most of the cases, okay, most of the cases it will be less than 200, 200 only. And in some cases, when it is more than 200 also, what is the provision? They are telling for cinema, for those persons who are involved in the business of cinema halls, etc., who are giving services by way of exhibition to a cinematographic films or any multiplexes, then for those people this provision is not applicable. They are telling for them every day some 1,000 number of people will be coming. They will not they will have to maintain the list of all those people, write their names, etc. Nonsense. This is not possible for cinema operators, those who are having the business of exhibition of films. For them, what other options they are giving is, instead of giving any such document, you better give an electronic ticket. Your electronic ticket will also be valid, and if it is having a QR code, then also it will be valid. Even if that has a QR code, then also it will be valid. You don't have to follow all those different provisions which is there, or all those mandatory fields which are required to be there in a tax invoice. Tax invoice should have invoice number, invoice date, GST number of supplier, GST number of recipient, description of goods, description of services, the HSN code, etc. That provision will not be applicable to you. That is the only change which has been made. Special provisions pertaining to tax invoice for services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematography film in multiplexes have been made. What was the provision? I have given the provision which was there before, which is there now also, but not applicable to these cinema halls. A registered person has an option to issue consolidated tax invoice for supplies at the close of every day where the value of supply is less than 200, recipient is unregistered and he does not require any tax invoice. With effect from 1/9/2019, with effect from 1st of September 2019, a fourth proviso has been added in rule number 46. In rule number 46, they have added one more proviso. Fourth proviso of rule number 46 has been amended to disallow this option. Which option? The above option, to a supplier engaged in making supply of services by way of admission to an exhibition of cinematographic films. So this option of giving consolidated invoice for less than 200 supplies, etc., is no more applicable to cinema halls or multiplexes. Further, with effect from 1st of September 2019, new sub-rule 4 has been inserted. New sub-rule 4 has been inserted, which says that these multiplex or cinema halls, etc., shall issue an electronic tax invoice. Instead of giving an hard copy invoice, they can issue an electronic tax invoice. The said electronic ticket shall deem to be the tax invoice, even if such ticket does not contain the details of recipient but contains other information mentioned in rule number 46. Even if the details of recipient is not mentioned, even if it is not telling that this ticket is purchased by Mr. Dilip, then also the ticket will be valid. Then section 31 subsection A, facility of digital payment to a recipient. Now here nothing has been notified, etc., but because the future is something where not even future, the present scenario also, you can see that most of the payment is made by you in electronic mode. Digital payments are happening. So what is this? There is a new section 31A which has been added, which is telling that government may notify different class of registered person or different class of suppliers who can take the payment, who can accept digital payments from their recipient. Nothing is notified as of now. The government may, on the recommendation of council, prescribe such class of registered person who shall provide prescribed modes for electronic payment to the recipient of supply of goods or services or both made by him, and give an option to such recipient to make the payment accordingly in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. What is the condition? What is the manner? Not yet prescribed. Then manner of issuing tax invoice. Now rule number 48 told us what is the manner of issuing tax invoice. In that they have added 3 more sub rules. Rule number 48 had told manner of issuing tax invoice. If you are a supplier of goods, you should issue 3 copies of tax invoice, one for the supplier, one for the recipient, and one for the transporter who is transporting the goods. If you are a person who is involved in the business of supply of services, then 2 copies, one for the recipient, one for the supplier, and the serial number is required to be given in GSTR1 when you are filing. This was already there. They have added few more points. What is this few more points? Now government has started a new scheme of invoicing which is called as E Invoice. E-invoicing provisions have been started by government, wherein if you are a person whose business is more than 500 crores, if you are a person whose business is more than 100 crores, then you will have to mandatorily issue an E-invoice. You will have to mandatorily issue an E-invoice. For this purpose, there was no particular rule which was mentioned. I mean, there was a provision with regard to e-invoicing, but there was which we have already discussed in class, but there was no rule specified how to do this. What is the manner of issuing e-invoices, etc. They have now incorporated 4 rules and told that there is an website. There are 10 different websites which they have notified. You can go to this 10 different website and generate e-invoice Now what is this point telling? The invoice shall be prepared by such class of registered person as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of council by including such particulars contained in form GST INC01 after obtaining invoice reference number. Once you generate once you do an e-invoice, once you generate an e-invoice, you will get something called as invoice reference number by uploading the information contained therein on the common GST electronic portal in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. Every invoice issued by a person to whom sub rule 4 applies in any manner other than the manner specified in the said sub-rule shall not be treated as invoice. So if you are a person to whom sub-rule 4 is applicable, if you are a person who is required to do e-invoicing, who is required to give e-invoices, then you will have to invoice, you will have to issue an invoice only. If you issue any other type of invoice, that is invalid. If you issue any other type of invoice, it is invalid. So what if for me provisions of sub-rule 4 is not applicable? What if for me invoicing provision is not applicable? Then for you, whatever normal invoices you are issuing is valid. The provisions of sub-rule 1 and 2 shall not apply to an invoice prepaid in the manner specified in sub-rule 4. So if you are a person who is giving e-invoices, for you the triplicate, duplicate, etc. is also not applicable. So this notification is there, which has given list of different website which you can go and generate e-invoices. Then there is a change made in e-way bill. Again, this is an important change, again important for CA inter student, CACS.CS, CA and CMA inter student, also important for final student, but because it is a chota sa theory question, they may ask it for the intern students only. Now what is this? Rule 138E has been added in e-way bill rules. What is this rule? In CGST rules they have added for e-way bill. What is this rule, sir? This is telling if you are a person who is liable to generate e-way bill, etc. If you are a person who has not filed returns for 3 months, 2 months, etc., etc., then for you, we will restrict you from generating e-way bill. Normally, whenever there is a movement of goods happening and the value of that consignment value is more than 50,000, e-way bill is required to be generated. E-way bill is required to be generated in Part A of GST. E-way bill called as GST EWB 01 is required to be generated. But I will block you from generating e-way bill. I will block you from generating e-way bill if ... Following persons are restricted to furnish information in Part A of GST EWB 01 of the e-way bill. No person shall be allowed to furnish the information in Part A with respect to a registered person who, being a composition dealer, has not furnished GST CMP 08. That is the payment, this is the return which he has to upload for making the payment for 2 consecutive quarters, because it is quarterly. So 2 consecutive quarters. If I am a composition dealer who has not furnished the return GST CMP 08 for 2 consecutive continuously for 2 quarters, then for me, if I have purchased goods from someone, the supplier will not be able to generate an e-way bill for me. Then being a person other than covered in A above, that is you are not a composition dealer who has not furnished 2 consecutive returns under section 39. So GSTR 3B, if you have not submitted GSTR 3B for 2 consecutive months, then for you also this provision is applicable. And further, for all those people who have not filed all those people who are not filed GSTR1 for 2 months continuously or 2 quarters, for them also this provision is applicable. Meaning those people who are not filing their returns, those people who are not filing their returns which they are liable to file, for them generating of e-way bill will be blocked. If you purchase from someone, the supplier, and the value is more than 50,000, the supplier is required to generate an e-way bill. That supplier will not be able to generate only. In my name, he will not be able to generate only. Why, sir? The portal will tell, hey supplier, this person is not filing the return. Why are you sending goods to him? This person is not filing the returns only. Why are you sending the goods to him? I will not allow you to send the goods to this person. Sir, okay sir, by mistakenly I have not filed the return. Now what to do? They have blocked it. Now what to do? Can unblocking happen? Definitely unblocking of e-way bill also will happen. How, sir? Registered person will have to make an application. A registered person will have to do what, sir? Make an application to the commissioner in form GST EWB 05. Then that commissioner, if he is satisfied, he will issue an order in GST EWB 06. Order can tell 2 things. Order will tell, yes, okay, you can, I am unblocking or I am blocking. So order will be issued allowing him to furnish the details in part A, or he may reject the request after giving an opportunity of being heard. He will either issue an order that yes, now I am unblocking you, or he can give an order telling no, this is nonsense, whatever reasons are given by you is not acceptable, after giving an opportunity of being heard. Then under returns also there is some changes net, not main changes. Now what has happened was this, all these annual returns, monthly returns, etc., on continuous basis they are extending the due dates. Normally an annual return is required to be filed by 31st December of next financial year. So if you are in financial year 1920, you are required to file the returns, annual return, by 31st December 2020. For that year you should file annual return by 31st December 2020. But what is happening is the forms were only not ready. So government started extending the due dates, and these due dates, how they are extending? Say first they told that the due date shall be, first they have extended the due dates for say 3 months. Then say from this 31st December 2020 they would have extended to 31st March 2021, and during the month of March again they are extending for 3 more months, again they are extending for 3 more months. So something like this is happening. So government is telling, see, I am not available on daily basis to do this nonsense. I am not available on daily basis to keep on giving such notification. So let us give the power to the commissioner himself. Let the commissioner himself extend the notification. So they have issued a proviso for this, provided that a commissioner may, on the recommendation of the council for the reasons to be recorded in writing by notification, extend the time limit of furnishing annual return for such class of registration, for such class of registered person as may be prescribed, provided further that any such extension in time limit by the commissioner of state. So this point which is there in CGST Act, they are telling even if the state commissioner is changing or the commissioner of an union territory is changing, then it will be deemed that a notification has been passed by the commissioner of central tax. Then payment of tax, again this is something which we have already discussed in classrooms. Now before we always had a problem whether inter-head and intra-head changes or transfer of amounts in cash ledger is possible. Last year they told yes, it is possible by adding section 49 subsection 10 and section 49 subsection 11. What is this, sir? See, electronic cash ledger is there. It will have different heads. You have deposited some amount of cash. This is already discussed in classroom, but anyways I'll just explain. So say I have amounts, so this is heads, and this is tax, interest, penalty. What are the different heads, sir? CGST, SGST, IGST, SGST or UTIG, IGST and GST cess. Now I have already in my electronic cash ledger, this is my electronic cash ledger, I have in my interest head, I have 10,000 rupees, in CGST 5,000 rupees, in IGST, and in penalty of 5,000 in SGST and penalty of IGST I have around 2,000. Now there is some tax liability which I have to pay. I have to pay around 5,000 of CGST, 5,000 of SGST and 1,000 of IGST. Now what they are telling is, instead of depositing the money again, you already have some balance in your account, no? Transfer this balance. You can transfer this balance. You can transfer from the same heads, meaning from CGST interest you can transfer to CGST tax, from CGST interest you can transfer to CGST penalty, and you can also transfer from CGST to SGST or CGST to IGST. Both inter heads and intra heads are possible. Now the transfer of money which is there in cash ledger, please see, we are talking about cash ledger, not input tax credit. We are talking about the amount which is there in your cash ledger. You can transfer within the same head or between two different heads. For this they have notified a form, GST PMT 09, important for your MCQ, very important for your MCQ. Okay, inter and intra head transfer of amounts available in electronic cash ledger. Section 49 subsection 10, a registered person may on the common portal transfer any amount of tax, interest, penalty or any other amount available in the electronic cash ledger under this act to the electronic cash ledger of IGST, CGST, integrated tax, central tax or unitary tax in such form and in such manner as may be prescribed. Section 49 subsection 11, where any amount has been transferred to the electronic cash ledger under this act, the same shall deem to have been deposited under the said ledger. There is this rule. What is the form which you should use? Form GST PMT 09. This is important from exam perspective. Then rule number 86. Rule number 86. Now, if there is any refund which is payable to you, you have paid tax wrongly. Wrongly you have paid some taxes. Therefore, you have applied for refund. Wrongly you have paid some taxes and you have applied for refund. Or you have excess ITC available with you and you want to claim for refund. If that refund is payable to you, then that refund will be directly given to you in your portal. Directly I will give that refund and it will be credited in your electronic credit ledger. It will go to your electronic credit ledger. What is this point telling? Where a registered person has claimed refund of any amount paid on tax wrongly paid by him or tax paid in excess, and for which the debit has been made in electronic credit ledger, for which the amount which is there in electronic credit ledger has been reduced. I have paid tax in excess or I have wrongly paid taxes. Sir, this month I was liable to pay 1000. This month I was liable to pay 1000. I have around 1 lakh rupees in my input tax credit ledger, in my electronic cash credit ledger. No, in my electronic credit ledger I have totally 1 lakh rupees. This month my liability was only 1000 rupees, but by mistakenly this 1000 I have, while entering this one more zero I have added, so 10,000 it has become. So what has happened? From your electronic credit ledger they have reduced 10,000 rupees and the balance which is there is only 90,000. But this was done by mistakenly by you. Actually the balance was supposed to be 99,000, because 1 zero extra you have put, the amount has been reduced by 9,000 extra. 9,000 extra rupees has been excess paid by you. Now this excess payment which is paid by you is by mistake. You can go apply for refund. When you apply for refund and the officer feels that yes you have done a mistake, and the officer feels that yes you have done a mistake, then this 9,000 will go again to your electronic credit ledger. If this refund is admissible to you, then the amount will be recredited to your electronic credit ledger. I'll read this provision again. Where a registered person has claimed refund of any amount paid as tax wrongly paid or paid in excess, for which debit has been made from the electronic credit ledger, the said amount, if found admissible, shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger by the proper officer by an order made in GST PMT 03. Then TDS and TCS provision again. In this chapter also there is no very good amendment. This chapter also talks about the same extension of due dates. Now the officer has the power to extend the due dates. See, if you are a person who is required to file GSTR 8, that is the monthly return filed by the the operator, the TCS operator, and if you are a person who is required, TCS operator is required to file annual return also, GSTR 9B. For these returns, the government, the commissioner has the power. Normally the government by notification is to do. Now they are telling I am giving this power to the commissioner only. I am giving this power to the commissioner only. Only those things has been added. Nothing important in as such. Then in the topic called as assessment, or also this point is also covered in section 46, which is returns topic. Now normally what happens, once you don't file your return, if you don't file within the returns within the due date, officer will send you a notice. Officer will send you a notice, correct? Now sending of this notice, after once the notice is sent, you are liable to file the return within 15 days. This is what the provision is already there. Now for this they have given a specific procedure. They have given what, sir? Standard operating procedure. They have given a standard operating procedure. You straight away don't send. Officer, if he is not filing the return, you are sending the notice, no? Is it not your job to remind him that he is liable to file the returns, etc.? So they have given a procedure for sending this type of notice. How will this notice be sent, and what will happen if you don't file the return within the prescribed time? Section 46 of CGST Act, read with Rule 68 of CGST rules, requires issuance of notice to a registered person who fails to furnish the return under section 39 or under section 45 or under section 44 or 45 of CGST Act, requiring him to furnish the return within 15 days. Further, within 15 days you should file the return. Who is telling? 46 is telling. Further, Section 62 of CGST Act provides for assessment of non-filers. What does Section 62 says? If return is not filed within the due date, assessment will be done by the officer himself. Assessment of non-filers who fail to file the return under Section 39 or 45, even after notice has been issued to them under Section 46. And no separate notice is required to be given. No separate notice is required to be issued for best judgment assessment under Section 62 if the return is not filed within 15 days. So Section 62 is telling what? Once a notice is sent under Section 46, I will not send the notice again to you. I will not send a notice to you again to you. For this, they have given a procedure. How should you do all these different activities they have given? CBIC has issued the following guidelines to ensure uniformity in the implementation of the provisions of the law in relation to non-filers of the return. What is the procedure? Procedure is very simple. What are they telling? 3 days before the due date. So 20th is the due date. Assuming I am filing the return for the month of October. So 20th November is the due date. 3 days before the due date, on 17th or on 18th, you should send a message to me. You should send a message to my registered mobile number that, hey Mr. Dilip, you are registered under GST. The due date of filing the returns is coming on this 20th. Please file the return within 20th. Please file the return within 20th. Okay. This message is required to be sent. Now, once the due date is over, say 20th has come, once the 20th is over, 21st of November, immediately you should send a notice to, you should send a message to me, not notice, you should send a message to me by email or by normal message on my mobile. You should send a message, hey Dilip, you are liable to file return here. Yesterday was the due date, please file it, please file your return at the earliest. You should send a message to me, not a notice. You should send a message to me. Okay, he sent a message. Now, even after that, what they are telling, after 5 days of this due date, say 20th was the due date, 3 days before due date I informed you to file return. 1 day after due date, immediately after the due date is over, I sent you a message that you are liable to file return. Even after that, if you are not filing, I will, after 5 days from this, even after giving all these messages, if you don't file within 5 days, after 5 days of the due date, after 5 days, that is on 25th of 11, I will send a notice to you straight away. I will send a notice. Now I will not wait for any messages, etc. I will send a notice to you. Hey Mr. Dilip, you have not filed the return. Hey Mr. Dilip, you have not filed the return. Please file the return within 30 days. Please file the return within 15 days. Within 15 days, please file the return. Now, if I have filed the return within 15 days, no further action will be taken by the officer. Officer will not do anything else. That matter is closed. If I don't file the return within 15 days, then the proper officer will compute the tax liability himself. He will himself compute the tax liability and he will give an assessment order and also a summary report. He will give an assessment order to me and also a summary report. Now, if within this 30 days, within 30 days of this assessment order, I file the returns, very good, the matter is closed. I don't file the return, then he will start recovering the tax from me. He will start recovery proceedings. He will start the recovery proceedings. I'll just read it for you. A system generated message is on your mobile, SMS, would be sent to all the registered person 3 days before the due date of filing the return. This is a reminder message to file the returns by the due date. Immediately after the due date of furnishing the return under Section 39 is over, a system generated mail or a message would be sent to all the defaulters. Once this due date is over, I will send a message or a mail to your email ID, registered email ID. Now, after 5 days of due date of filing returns, a notice will be sent under Section 46 to all the defaulters. Even after 5 days, if you are not filing, even after 5 days of the due date of filing return, you have not filed any return, I will send you what? I will send you a notice straight away. Now I will send you a notice, not a message. I will send you a notice asking me to file the return within 15 days. So if within 15 days I have filed the returns, very good. Officer will not do anything. If I don't file the return within 50 days, then best judgment assessment will be done by the officer. He will compute the tax liability himself and he will give an assessment order to me. Now within 30 days of this assessment order, if I am filing the return, good, the matter is closed. If I don't file the return, then officer will come and start recovering the taxes from me. Okay, this completes all the amendments which were applicable for your present examination. Other amendments are there on different chapter, chota amendments which I am not taking up because I feel that they are not so important. Okay, so let us meet in the next video as soon as possible. Till then, enjoy. Please study well for your examination and please take care of yourself. Please make sure that you take all the possible care. Thank you.